Lesson 9.2, Video 3. Here we have two trinomials, one on top, one on the bottom. So again, before we can decide what our excluded values are or simplify and cancel things out, we have to factor, if possible. So if I look at my numerator, I notice that I can put k in the first position. I'm looking for two numbers that have a product of 35 and a sum of negative 12, and that would be negative 7 and negative 5. So I go minus 7 minus 5. On the bottom, again, I can write a k first. I'm looking for two numbers that have a product of negative 21 and a sum of negative 4. And that would be 7 and 3. To have a product of negative 21, one of them must be negative. When you add them together, you get a negative 4, so the bigger number should be negative. So minus 7 and plus 3. Now that it's factored, I can write down what the excluded values are, and it states that k, in this case, cannot be. Now remember, the numerator doesn't matter. You only care about the denominator being 0. So k cannot be a positive 7, because if I plug that in there, it would become 0. It can also not be a negative 3. So if I plug that in right there, that would become 0. Once I've decided on the excluded values, I can cancel if possible, and I have a binomial on the top and bottom that is k minus 7. So I would be left with k minus 5 over k plus 3. And that is finished. Remembering, of course, that I cannot cancel the k's here because they have a force field around it when it's a binomial or more terms, like trinomials and so on. The next one, we have a lot going on here, but the first thing we should notice is that I can factor out a 10m from the numerator right from the get-go, before I even try and think about factoring. If I factor that out, I get 3m squared minus m minus 14. On the bottom, I can do the same. Take a 10m out, and I end up with 5m squared minus 4m minus 1. Now, I cannot decide on excluded values yet because I still have trinomials. So if I factor the trinomial, I still have 10m, but I'm going to factor this trinomial, and this is not a factoring lesson, so I'm going to show you what the result would be if we factor it. Those lessons were done before. If you need help on this, we can take it in class and talk about it. But these are what you would get if you factored these trinomials out. And you can factor by grouping or guess and check. It's your choice. We get a 5m plus 1 and an m minus 1. So we have rewritten these. So these are now the two pieces we're looking at, factored and ready. So now we can say that our excluded values state that m, focusing on the denominator now, cannot be 0. That would be this one. It's just a term. There's no adding or subtracting to it, so 0 is all you would need. M cannot be 1, and that would take care of this one. And on the last one, the answer would be opposite of this term divided by what's in front of the first part of that binomial, which is 5. Now if that doesn't make sense, all I would have to do is take that out here and write it out as is and ask myself, how can that be 0? I would subtract 1, I would divide by 5, and I would get m equals a negative 1/5. So again, if you can't tell by looking at it, that is the official algebraic way of figuring it out. Now those are the excluded values. Now to finish, I cancel if possible. The 10's can cancel, the m's can cancel, but that's it. So we're left with a 3m minus 7 on top times an m plus 2 on top, all over 5m plus 1 times m minus 1. And this is our simplified rational expression. And this ends Lesson 9.2, Video 3.